welcome to the lecture series in computer science. We are seeing a series of lectures in the subject Agile methodologies. We will be seeing topic on feature driven development. A feature driven development is one of the Agile methodology. So, we will be having a brief outlook of this feature driven development. As the contents of the session are, we will be seeing the idea behind feature driven development, practices of feature driven development, feature driven development model, examples of features, members who work in this feature driven development project lifecycle model, the tools and techniques that are used, scope and output of feature driven development, and we will as well see the advantages and disadvantages of using a feature driven development model. Now, as a basics of the idea behind feature driven development is, in 1997 Jeff D. Luca, who was a member of a 50% team on a 15-month software development project in Singapore. So, he devised for the development team to be more adaptive and responsive to customer needs. The feature driven development is customer centric, iterative and incremental, with the goal of delivering tangible software results often and efficiently. It works on the basis of object oriented analysis and design, OOAD in short, and modeling of a project that graphically captures the realities of the project. The programmer gets benefited from short iterative feature based planning and design processes. The manager gets benefited from the picture of the project progress and status that makes project gearing up in an easy way. Now, let us see some of the practices that we use in this feature driven development. As one of the practice, we have the first practice as domain object modeling, and you are supposed to develop feature by feature. Each and every feature you are supposed to develop, and you will be showing those features as small releases to the customer end. So, you are supposed to develop by feature, individual class code ownership, feature team, you are supposed to form a feature team. That team is responsible to list the feature and to develop the feature. So, formation of feature teams, inspections, regular builds, configuration management, reporting and visibility of results. So, these are some of the practices that are followed in the feature driven development. Now, let us see what a feature driven development model is. This model has a domain object model which is built based on feature list of each domain area. Any function that is too complex to be implemented within 2 weeks is further decomposed into smaller functions until each subprogram is small enough to be called as a feature. Planning is based on these features. Final phase of the iterative design is built by feature that results in the main build. An iteration of a feature would normally take 1 to 3 weeks. So, to complete a particular feature, the developer, the feature team, it will require minimum of 1 week to the maximum of 3 weeks in order to complete a particular feature. Then we will see some of the examples of a feature. What is a feature? What do you call it? What sort of things you call it as a feature? How do you instantiate it? We will see that. So, as an example of a feature, to calculate the total of a sale, say for example, if your domain is said to be retail management, what is a retail management? Say for example, you are going to create a software for a supermarket. When you are going to create a software for a supermarket, then you are into a retail domain. When you are into a retail domain, in the supermarket, you have a vendor screen, you have a customer screen. In the customer screen, when you are going to purchase some products and the quantity, based on the product amount, it will be totaling it. So, that particular total sale, to make the computations of the provisions that are being purchased from a supermarket, you call it as a feature. So the feature team will be responsible for developing such a feature. So here the first example of feature is to calculate the total of a sale. The second states to validate the password of a user. Say for example, you go to a ATM, wherein in your ATM, when you insert your card, it will be asking you to type in your PIN, the password. So you are supposed to enter the 4-digit PIN, a numeric PIN. Supposing if you are going to enter it wrongly, it will say invalid PIN. If you are going to enter it right, it will say the PIN is validated, and then it will show you different options as to make a cash deposit or to withdraw money or to get the mini statement or to give a balance inquiry, so on and so forth. So to validate a password is one of the feature. So because validating a password is highly mandatory in terms of ATMs in banks, because a wrong person, the intruder, he should not be in a position to take money from your account. So it is always better to validate. So such a kind of password validation is a feature. So then the next example is authorize the sales transaction of a customer. Say for example, you are going to go in to purchase some television for your home, and when you are going to swipe in your card or when you are going to do the payment through Google Pay merchandise, what happens is that it will be asking for you to type in the PIN, MPIN, mobile PIN. When you type in the mobile PIN, it will go to the server, it will check whether the mobile PIN is valid, and then if it is so, it will go to the customer end, to the vendor end, and it will be checking and it will authorize. So when you are going to scan the barcode which is being shown by the vendor, and when you are going to do things out, so authorization of a sales transaction of a customer is a feature. So now as a developer or as a feature team member, you are supposed to develop such features. So these are some of the examples of a feature. Then next is, let us explain about the roles of or the people whoever is working in a feature driven development team, the members of a feature driven development team. The first member is said to be a project manager. The project manager oversees the entire project. Then you have a chief architect. Why do you require an architect over here? Because as I said in the previous slides, as far as feature driven development is concerned, it works out mainly based on the object oriented analysis design, OOAD concepts. So to work with the OOAD concept, you need an architect. So for that, one of the member of a feature driven development is a chief architect. A chief architect is in charge of the overall design and modeling of the system. The development manager leads and mentors the development team and oversees the day-to-day programming activities. So he is responsible for the activities of the coders. So he is responsible to get the work done from the developers or the coders. The developers are also called as coders. Then the role of chief programmer. The chief programmer helps with analysis and design and manages small development teams. The class owner is a member responsible for designing, coding, testing and documenting the feature. Unlike your traditional development model, in your traditional development model, you will be documenting each and every activity that you do, whereas this feature driven development model is one of the agile methodology. In agile software development itself, by itself, you document only the needed things. That is, here in feature driven development model, you document only the features and you do not do the entire documentation. So here this class owner is responsible for documenting the features. Then you have a domain expert. A domain expert is a member of a team that understands the problem, that the customer needs, that is to be solved. So, whatever the customer says, he is something like he is someone like a business analyst. A business analyst is one whom you see in the different life cycle methodologies, wherein in feature driven development methodology you call him as a domain expert. Now, one other member, the main important member in a feature driven development team is the developers. The developers rely on the domain experts' knowledge to ensure that they are working and delivering what is most important to the customer. So, these are some of the members in feature driven development. My dear students, the members of a feature driven development is very vital to be remembered upon. I repeat the members again. It is the project manager, chief architect, development manager, chief programmer, class owner, domain expert and the developers. Then now let us see the feature driven development project life cycle. It is broadly divided into 5 different phases. First phase denotes to develop an overall model. The second one denotes to build a feature list. Third denotes plan by feature. Fourth and fifth are combined together, which denotes design by feature or build by feature. Here you do the initial modeling works when you are going to develop an overall model. So, you are going to build a feature team. In the feature team you are going to develop features. The feature will be a model that you are going to develop, that you are going to showcase it to the customer end. So, when you are going to develop an overall model, you do an initial modeling, and based on, if you want to develop an overall model, you are going to build a feature list. The list contains so many number of features. It does not contain one feature, but it contains 2 or more number of features. So, these two things happen to be classified under initial modeling, and based on the features that you have listed, you plan, you take each and every feature from this feature list and you plan by feature, and based on the plan that you do, you design those features. You make a design work of how to develop that particular feature. So, that is called design by feature. So, these 3 phases happen to be called as the model storming. So, initially you had model initialization, initial modeling, and then now you have this model storming. So, after you could design the feature, you build the feature. Now, when you are going to have this develop an overall model, here this particular feature driven model is concerned, you are supposed to give it in a diagrammatic way. You are supposed to give the shapes, the diagrams, the drawings are more important than the content. So, here you have an object model and you are supposed to give small notes with respect to the object model, with respect to the shape that you have designed. Now, as far as build a feature list is concerned, it contains list of features grouped into sets of subject areas. Then, as far as plan by feature is concerned, here you have the development plan, you have the class owners, you have the feature set owners. So, the class owners and feature set owners, or they will in turn validate the features that has been developed, that has been planned. Now, you have a design by feature. Here it acts as a package, that is the reason it has been given as a design package. It adds more content to the object model. What does it mean? Here you create an object model, more shapes, and when you are going to design by feature, when it becomes a package, more content to the object model is created, which means more shapes are even added, and then you build by feature, which is nothing but it has been validated by the customer end. So, completed client valued function, you place it over here. So, it goes like this. Now, what we will do is, we will see how to develop an overall model. Here, to develop an overall model, you have to form a modeling team. When you are going to form a modeling team, you are supposed to conduct a domain walkthrough. What do you mean by domain walkthrough? A person, a team member, whoever is part of this feature driven development team should possess domain knowledge. So, he should conduct a domain walkthrough. Then, if the particular employee, particular feature driven development team, if it has a good domain, if it has been made a good domain walkthrough and if the requirements are stated to be clear, then they can start developing small group models. Supposing if not all projects will have a clear set requirements, because when people go in for this agile software development itself, they used to go to this agile software development when the requirements are not clear and when they want to have a fast paced project. So, by any case, if the requirements are clear, the group will be allowed to create small models, or if the requirements is not clear, then they have to study the document. What sort of document? Something like an SRS. What is an SRS? You would have studied it in your software engineering subject, and SRS is said to be software requirement specification. So, there in that document you have all the requirements will be specified. So, those specified requirements only you need to create a software. So, you need to take the features from the requirement specified and then you are supposed to develop. So, okay, if the domain is clear, if the requirements are clear, you go here, you start developing small group models. When you are going to develop small group models, you develop a team model. A team will be somewhere around 5 to 7 people, where you will be creating a team model. After you create a team model, usually there will be refinements. Each and every, because the architect, he will be giving you certain guidelines. So, the project manager, he will be giving you certain refinements. So, you are supposed to refine your work. So, you refine the overall object model. Then, after refining the overall object model, after a group model has been created, you are supposed to document it based on the model that has been created, not the entire documentation, only based on the model that has been created. So, this is what you develop for an overall model. Then next is to build a feature list. When you are going to build a feature list, here after you develop a group team model, you form feature list teams. So, in the feature list teams, a feature list team is a team which is going to list the features. So, based on those features that has been listed, you will be creating each and every feature. So, based on the feature list team, each and every features are been built from the features that have been listed. Then you will be forming a planning team. A planning team has to be formed. So, this planning team you will be forming based on the features. So, you create a team based on the features and you will be forming a planning team. When you have this planning team, you determine the sequence of development, how you are going to develop. So, you determine the development sequence. Then you assign business activities to the chief programmers. Why do you need to assign business activities to the chief programmers? The chief programmers who will in turn segregate it to the developers and they will see to that the work has been carried out. So, assign business activities to chief programmers. Then assign classes to the developers. To developers, classes are assigned. So, this speaks about the planning to build a feature list and to plan by feature. Then after you have planned your feature, now what you do is you design those features. How do you design? You form a feature team. You form a feature team. If the feature is so complex or if you get an interactive feature, then you can conduct the domain walkthrough. What is a walkthrough? Walkthrough is something like you see at an overview. You make a walkthrough, something like skimming. So you conduct a domain walkthrough. Then you study the reference documents. Whatever documents that you have gathered during the requirements, you will be studying the reference documents one and only if you have a complex feature or you have an interactive feature. Okay. If the feature is said to be pretty simple, then you start directly to develop the sequence diagrams. Sequence diagram is one of the diagram which is used in the object oriented analysis design, OOAD. So you start developing this sequence diagram. You refine the object model, you write classes and methods prologue, and then you design for inspection. You design for doing inspection. Then after you could do that, you now start building the feature. So how do I build the feature? You implement classes and methods. So when you are going to implement the classes and methods, you are supposed to inspect the code. Code inspection has to be taken place. So after the code inspection that has been taken place, you are supposed to conduct unit tests. Unit test is one that you conduct on units, small units, on module by module, on with the each and every feature you divide it into sub features, then you make a test module by module. That is called as conducting unit test. After completing the unit test and after making all sort of these inspections, you promote to build. You promote how to build the particular feature. So this is how you build a feature. Then after you build the feature, then you show it to the customer end for validation. If the customer approves, you go on to develop a next set of features. So this is what you do. This is the life cycle of a feature driven development model. Now let us see the tools and techniques that are used in a feature driven development model. We have a detailed UML class diagram. As I said, this OOAD, object oriented analysis and design concept, by itself it works on the UML diagram. UML denotes unified modeling language. Under this unified modeling language only you have a use case diagram, you have conceptual diagram, you have sequence diagram, you have collaboration diagram, you have class diagram, deployment diagram, package diagram. So here you have a package. So here in the UML diagram, under UML diagram only you saw a sequence diagram when we were building this feature. Now you have a detailed UML class diagram as one of the tool. Then UML sequence diagram with short iterative agile techniques provide system development advantage to the development team. So these are the UML for which you use a tool called rational row software. So that acts as a tool, and the technique is we develop the classes, we develop the sequence diagrams. Then let us see the scope and output. As far as the scope and output is concerned, this feature driven development is limited to small to medium sized teams varying in the range from 4 to 15 people. The initial output will be a comprehensive feature list that is produced from the analysis of object models. From the feature list, an overall model is then produced and then given to individual developers, who in turn are called as the class owners. My dear students, you need to know who a class owner is. So it is all, so these people from the feature list and overall model is then produced and given to individual developers, who in turn, those individual developers are called as the class owners. Design and build by feature which results in the final source code. Then let us see some of the advantages of using a feature driven development model. You have a simple 5-step process that allows for more rapid development. This feature driven development model is a fast paced model. It is a rapid model wherein you deliver features at a very frequent basis. Then it allows larger teams to move product forward with continuous success, leverages predefined development standards so teams are able to move quickly. If the organization is working on a large scale software project, feature driven development might be right for the project development. So, these are some of the advantages of using a feature driven development. Then let us see some of the disadvantages or the weakness that are identified in this feature driven development. It does not work efficiently for smaller projects. For very small projects, it does not work so effectively or efficiently. Less written documentation is used, which can lead to confusion, because you write documentation only for the features that you have created. So, you do a very minimal documentation. Then it is highly dependent on lead developers or programmers, relies heavily on chief developers. It has top down decision making approach. This kind of top down decision making approach is opposed by many other agile methodologies like extreme programming. When you are going to do as well, here you have a chief architect, you have a project manager. So, wherein in one of the other agile methodology wherein we saw about this extreme programming, it uses collective ownership. Here each and every individual, each and every featured team is responsible. So, it uses a top down decision making approach, which acts as a weakness which has been identified in a feature driven development model. Now, let us summarize this session. We saw about what an FDD is about, feature driven development model is about. We saw the idea behind feature driven development. We saw the practices that are followed in a feature driven development. We saw this feature driven development model. We saw few examples relating to this feature driven development, relating to the features, and we saw who are all the members in this feature driven development. We saw this FDD project life cycle, and we saw it in pretty much detailed manner, and we saw the tools and techniques that are used in this feature driven development model, and we saw the scope and output for this particular model. As well, we concluded by saying the advantages and disadvantages of using a feature driven development model. Thank you.